Hey guys, this is Coach Brian with Cause Events and welcome to Coach's Corner. Today we're going to be talking about some of the things you're going to need for the cold water swim training. Now, we're in the middle of January right here, and I know I'm in Southern California and it's not as cold as where a lot of people are, but if you've got those early season triathlons or if you're training all year around like we normally are, then getting ready for cold water is something that you're going to have to face. So you have to start training probably now or in the next month if you've got something going on by the beginning of May. So let's get into it. So what are we going to need for that cold water? Now, you know, cold water is a relative term. To some people, cold water is 40 degrees. To some people, it's 50 degrees. Well, to me, cold water really starts when you get below 65 degrees because that's when you can start facing things like hypothermia. And those are really interesting factoids that we really need to take into account because it limits the amount of time and the amount of exposure you have and the amount of recovery time afterwards. So let's get started. What are you going to need? A swimsuit. For men's, women for women's. That's going to be underneath everything. For a guy, even maybe a gal, she might want to put a rash guard on as well. Okay, it's just another layer. And you can put that on under your wetsuit. And I've got people that are out there in 55 degree water swimming without a wetsuit. And they're just trunking it or swimsuiting it. And they're fine, but if you need to spend any significant amount of time in the water, you're going to need to start putting layers on appropriate for swimming in water. Okay, so you're going to need your swimsuit. You're going to need goggles or a face mask, and you can go with your little goggles, your little eye cups, or maybe a bigger set of goggles, or especially if the water is significantly colder, maybe down into the 40s, you may want to go with a full face mask and a snorkel, and you can get those, and you can train in those. You just can't compete with those. Okay, the swimming mask, a diving mask is another option. Your swim cap. Silicone swim cap is always preferable over latex. Once the water starts getting a little cooler, it's thicker, it keeps more temperature in. And then there are the neoprene thermal caps, which are nice. They give you a lot more protection on your head, and they help you endure the temperature of the water longer because you lose a lot of heat out of your head. And then the next one is the diving hood. Now, I do swim in a diving hood when the water is below 60 degrees. I will not put it on above 60 degrees. You get way too hot too fast. And there's good reason for that. But below 60 degrees, it's always nice to have. And then if you're wearing a full face mask, it gives you additional coverage. Because my biggest problem getting into cold water is getting that almost like an ice cream headache when your face first starts contacting the water, until you numb out a little bit and get adjusted. Okay, next thing is swim booties or swim shoes. Now, swim booties are nice. I would always recommend you either have a little hole in the bottom of them to drain out the excess water. Certain brands do better. Some brands balloon up like big water balloons on your feet, and I would prefer not to have that happen. So a little hole in the bottom. Or swim booties are also like surfing shoes. Those are the swim shoes. Swim shoes are nice, or swim booties are nice because they do offer a little bit more protection. The next thing is your wetsuit. Now, wetsuits are there's a lot to be said. If you're competing, you can't be in a wetsuit over 5 millimeters thick. But you can train in one that's thicker, and depending on the temperature of the water, you're going to need a thicker one or a thinner one. And I have a spring suit, which is short legs, no sleeves, very lightweight, very thin. It's 1 millimeter thick. Not a heavy duty thing, but it is nice to compete in. It does smooth out some of the drag that you would get from swimming, but it doesn't keep you very much warmer. Then there is the sleeveless long leg, which is nice, and I trim my legs up, but just to get the suit off faster in competition. It does offer much more thermal protection. Again, it does not have sleeves on it, so it doesn't provide that thermal protection. But if the water is probably above 52 or 53 degrees, you're not going to have that much of a problem with it. And then there's the full wetsuits, long sleeves, long legs up to the neck. And these can these can be more thermal or less thermal. They come in all different thicknesses. My Xterra is, I believe it's 3.5, where it's 5 millimeters around the torso and 3 millimeters around the legs and arms. And that's for the very coldest of the water that you're going to be in. You're going to need it when you're in water that's below 55 degrees, in my opinion. I know there are people out there that can swim perfectly fine in cooler water, and more power to you. I am not one of them. Okay, swim gloves. Swim gloves are nice to have. You can compete in those. You cannot, they have to be inspected. They cannot be webbed in any way, so they can't offer you any additional help in your swimming. It can't be webbed, so you can't get an unfair advantage. Okay, now a swim buoy, which is always nice to have in case you have a problem, is high vis. You can hold on to it, you wave your hand, attract attention, get some people out there. Okay, after the swimming, what's nice is to have a changing robe. Now you can have the sleeveless or you can have the long sleeve. It's a nice robe to have to change in. Change out of your wet clothes, and you want to get out of those clothes as fast as possible, especially if it's colder outside. And it usually is, if the water's colder, you're doing cold water training. Then you're gonna want to have that warm clothing, the dry warm clothing. You're gonna have that, maybe that long warm-up jacket that you see the swimmers wear, a beanie, and maybe some sweatpants, so that you can keep whatever temperature you have going in or have remaining in you. And then last but not least is some post-race nutrition, and maybe some carbs, because carbs will generate heat in your body as you digest them. I would say Rice Krispie treats, maybe some hot cocoa, maybe some hot coffee, some hot tea. Always a pleasure to have after a cold swim. We just recently got done with our polar bear plunge out at La Jolla Shores, and we had a chili and soup and all kinds of good stuff afterward, where everybody could get some warm stuff in them. It made it go by a lot faster, a lot more pleasant. I'm sorry, more pleasant. Didn't make it go by any faster, but it was very good to get out of the water, get into some dry clothes, get some warm food and warm drink in you, and then you could go on with the rest of your day after you warmed up. Okay, that's it for this segment, and the next one is going to be cycling in the cold. And stay tuned for that.